Welcome once again to our few minutes together to speak about the Parsha. The Shabbos, we have the privilege of taking out two Sifrei Torah. We're going to be reading Parshas Pekudei in the first Sefer Torah, and the second one is we're going to go back to Sedrus, and once again read from the beginning of Kisisa, because it is also Parshas Shkolim. And Parshas Shkolim, we spoke a little bit about at the beginning of Kisisa, and we're going to take up the same discussion with a little bit of a different twist in reference to Parshas Pekudei. Isn't it interesting to note that the word Pekudei, which means counting, is reflected in the very beginning of the Sedra of Parshas Shkolim, when it says, Kisisa esros b'nei Yisrael lefkudeihem, that when you lift up the count of the Jewish people, lepekudeihem, according to their pekudim, according to their count. In the Sedra of Pekudei, we're counting up all the various articles in the Mishkan and the amounts of gold and silver and all different types of other materials that were used. But in Shkolim, we're counting up the Jewish people. And when we count up the Jewish people, it uses the terminology that when you count the Jewish people, lefekudeihem, according to their pekudim, according to their count. And the pasuk goes on to say that when kol ha'over al ha'pekudim, whoever passes over to that count, the Jewish people are really two types of people. Every individual is an individual by him or herself. On the other hand, we're also a national, special group that belongs to what we know as Klal Yisrael. Rav Shamshon of Earl Hirsch says that we get our unique individuality not only by expressing who we are, but by joining together with the whole. Our own persona, our own personal self, is in and of itself not a real member of the Jewish people unless we're over ala pekudim, unless we pass over to be counted lefekudeihem, according to the count of the Jewish people. Each and every one of us gets our identity, not only as being a private person, not only as being someone who accomplishes in his own spheres of life, dealing with his own personal self and with his own family, but also in relating to the larger Jewish people. And if a Jew would isolate himself and only do those commandments which that Jew in and of himself felt, it's for my benefit, I'm doing it because I want to do it, this person is missing out on being a member of the klal, which is the way we get our identity. And isn't it important to note that when we get that identity, we do not have a full-fledged identity of a whole shekel, but rather the identity that we have when we become part of this great nation is only a half shekel, because each and every one of us is only half the equation. In order for us to be able to truly be whole, both as individuals and in reference to our relationship to the nation, we need to have elements of both our half of our own individual self and the part that is contributed by all the rest of the Jewish people. We need to identify with all the needs of the Jewish people, with the needs of the nation building that has sustained us for 2,000 years in exile, the need for the commandments to be performed with a recognition that the performance of those commandments are directly interrelated with every other Jew. That's why coming to shul and joining together, for instance, when we sing together, it's more than just 1, 2, or 3 voices. It's all of Klal Yisrael joining together. And when each person contributes his or her share, what happens is that the whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts. How precious is the idea that the Torah is giving us over here, that we are a nation that's not just an individual, but is a nation that is combined, Pekudei, as being greater by the fact that we all join together. So let's keep that idea in mind when we talk about Parshas Pekudei and Parshas Shkolim, that we are Pekudei, not just individuals, but part of the great Jewish people, when we pray together, when we do the mitzvahs together, when we share the joys of the upcoming Yom Tov of Purim together, Mevarchim HaChodesh together, Pesach and Yetz Hashem together. This is the nature of the individual and collective responsibility of Klal Yisrael. Have a wonderful Shabbos and a good Chodesh.